what we're talking about here is really a different way of thinking about your impact on where you live.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be successful if you're dead broke and you can't afford to do anything. But you can afford to not drop that plate of food at the four-way stop in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Okay? That doesn't cost a thing.
Yeah.
It's a different way of thinking. This is my town.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me for using my hands, but
Oh, no, that's good. Yeah.
that's really the heart of what I am trying to promote. Not that you got money or that you need to change your whole lifestyle, but rethink about dropping that piece of trash or driving by and seeing somebody else throw something out in the road and you just drive by it.
You're listening to Local Rapport, a community podcast where people in Calhoun County, Texas, and the surrounding areas share their roles, opinions, and life experiences. By listening, I'm confident you will appreciate the people that call this coastal land home, one story at a time. I'm your host, Sam Flores, and up next is this week's guest. It's good to see you this Friday, Raymond.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for this invitation.
It really is. It's been a good week. It's County Fair week. We had a great win this past Thursday. We had a football game, beat on someone in our district really good, like 40 something, and like maybe they had a field goal or something like that. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
it makes the Friday pretty enjoyable. This is going to be a really important conversation for our community. We're talking about Port Lavaca Pride, and I just wanted people to know from the top, that you are someone that you're, what you're going to share. It's not something that you're practicing what you preach, but you are, preaching what you do practice. I have seen you serve in the community and give of your time sacrificially to, make places better than what you found them. And, and for those that are, tuning in and maybe this is your first opportunity meeting Raymond, he is on, multiple boards and he has a lot of influence here on this town. He's a graduate of Calhoun. And if you'd like to learn more, you can see episode 16 where you get to hear his story in more detail. But today's conversation is going to be a little bit more about our community. And so my first question is Port Lavaca Pride. What is that and how can I not just, understand it, but I would like to just kind of understand a little bit of where that idea came from and also, of course, what it is. So maybe I'll let you lead in on that one.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me. I enjoy the opportunity to be with you, Sam, and to share something that maybe will change the way some folks think.
Absolutely.
Okay? Thank you for that. So the way this all got started, I find myself thinking about things a little bit differently now that I'm almost 70 years old. And I guess that may be just part of getting older. You begin to consider things differently than you were when you were younger. A little more along the long-term lines. What kind of legacy am I going to leave? What's going to be written between my dash on the tombstone? From 1952 to X date. What happened in that dash? I begin to think about stuff like that. And what can I leave? Because others have done a lot to help me. I would like to do the same. So I do a lot of traveling up and down the Texas Gulf Coast, all over. And when I tell people where I'm from, I'm from Port Lavaca, and most of the time I have to explain to them where it is. But every once in a while, I get somebody who has been through Port Lavaca on the bypass.
Yeah.
And they always remember the black and gold sand crab sign out there by the stadium. Oh, you're a Port Lavaca sand crab. Yep, I am. And I'm thankful that you saw that and you remembered where we were.
Right.
And a lot of people may not realize it, but that may be the first introduction to Port Lavaca that a lot of people get. And then as they start looking around a little bit further, they see more visual cues as to who Port Lavaca is in Calhoun County. having those experiences combined with the Saturday morning experience I had at McDonald's a couple of years ago. It was after a home football game on Friday night. I was sitting there in McDonald's eating my my McDonald's sandwich for breakfast, and I
shout out to McDonald's. They get some free advertising.
Yeah, hey McDonald's, you're a good location right across from Sand Crab Stadium. I looked across at the stadium after that football game, and it looked like maybe an airplane had flown over during the last night somehow and dumped a whole load of trash.
Man,
all over the stadium grounds, both sides of the stands. And it just hit me. Wow. What is it that makes people not aware of the impression that gives to other folks? It's a little revealing piece of character about who they are. When we get up and we just leave our trash and our empty Coke bottles and Coke cans right where we left the game,
yeah,
we get up and we leave. That sends a message that we don't really give a flip. Where, at least where that goes, we're irresponsible for the trail we leave behind us. And in this case, it's a pretty embarrassing trail. It's not one that I think most people in Port Lavaca would want to leave. Well, it hit me. Dang, that doesn't look good for my high school, where I went, where I graduated, and where I spent all of my growing up years.
Yeah,
people drive by, they see the Port Lavaca sign. If they happen to drive by there on a Saturday morning after a football game, well, guess what? The message is a little bit different. So I brought it up to my Rotary Club, that next Rotary luncheon, and everyone kind of bought into the reason for my bringing it up.
Right.
But someone in the school administration said, "Oh, don't worry about that. We pay somebody to come pick that up on Saturday morning. You must have gotten there before they went out there to pick it up." And I'm thinking, you just missed the whole point.
Yeah.
You just missed the whole point of this. And I would tell you that conversation right there is what Port Lavaca Pride is all about.
Okay.
It's a way of thinking.
Yeah.
More than anything else. How do we think about what we do, the trail we leave behind us, and the reflection that others will see about us when they come through our town? And even if nobody comes through our town, we see each other's response in our feeling of responsibility for our neighbor and my classmates.
Right.
To hold up the values of class of 1971 and all those other classes.
It's always fun whenever I hear a graduating class get a shout out. So congrats to the 71 graduating class of Calhoun. Getting that challenge right now, which is, to continue on the pride y'all had in high school, but to see it in the community.
We just had our 50th reunion 2 weeks ago at the Red Barn.
Man.
We had a pretty good turnout. I was impressed. But seeing all of those kids again, it just kind of has a sobering strike on me, and I'm sure it did everybody else in there.
Right.
We were together. We were a group of people, and we had a esprit de corps. Some folks called it Calhoun Sand Crab Soul.
Okay.
And not only did we have it, but everybody that attended Calhoun High School has got some piece of Calhoun High School Sand Crab Soul.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a esprit de corps thing. Got us all together thinking about the old times and how things have changed. It was a good thing.
Yeah.
One of the other things, this is a little off topic, but you can cut it out. One of the things that really hit me pretty hard at our age, we were all approaching 70, was the Rest in Peace board. where all the photos of our classmates who weren't with us was posted. And it was just amazing how that board had changed in a year. The new names that were up there. And it just reminded me that none of us are here forever.
Right.
It's like just a moment in time, and we can do good with it. We can leave a little something behind.
Yeah.
Or we cannot.
Yeah.
Choice is ours.
That does hit close to home because I'm not trying to be any more morbid, but I tend to think I can see myself being someone that looks at that board and obviously it hits right at your feet because, these are people that were your core, but you don't look at it thinking that, oh, I may be on that board next year. You're just like, man, this is sad. And then it's very easy to just kind of take for granted the time that we have, or just kind of feel like it's a given we'll be up in the morning, sorry, I know that may seem, but honestly, my hope with that is just to kind of just say, hey, may we do much with what we got.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. And it's probably that thought that has been kind of nagging at me as I get a little older and contemplate my own mortality. I don't want to leave my hometown, my county, my environment without having tried to make some kind of an impact on it, positive impact. So I guess that's why I'm really a little concerned about trying to push pride in where we all live, where we go to church, where we go to school, where we raise our children, and then where we come back to when we get to those retirement years. I think it's a message I can leave with some who may not even be aware of how important it might be. Thinking about your surroundings, your life, your impact on those that you live with and in the same community with. Doesn't cost money.
Yeah. Well, in a world where there seems to be so many things that are out of our control, I almost feel like it's almost therapeutic to feel like there is something we can do to make our area improved that is in our control. And I know it can be very easy, and I'm guilty of it too, to kind of feel like that, to pass along responsibility like a hot potato at times, because, we're thinking, well, like the administrator brought up, they said, hey, we have people in place for that, so let's not lose sleep over it. There's already someone in place, but with the urgency that you've had and you thought overall as a community that, hey, look, we're better than this. We can look at our surroundings, because it may seem like a small thing. It kind of reminds me of the shopping cart, when you go to a Walmart or H-E-B.
Good example.
It seems like, look, they got workers, like let's not sweat it. There's people in place to take care of it. And sure, you're not technically wrong, but I mean, it's a healthy sign if you see a community that's looking out for other people's vehicles, other people's belongings. Hey, they're in the way, or maybe even just trying to have your employees back at the good old H-E-B or Walmart and, have them quickly be of service, to know where things are at.
Yeah. Somewhere, somebody has to pay for picking up that cart.
And there's that too. Yeah.
Are those mattresses or those pieces of furniture, those TVs or that dinner you left in the middle of the street. Mm-hmm. Somebody has got to pay, being paid to clean those things up or to put them back or whatever.
Yeah.
And we can all pitch in, all of us combined together can make a difference.
Yeah. And thankfully, like you said, there's ways to be able to do that where, sure, it's a commitment of time. Maybe it's just a few seconds. Maybe it's 30 minutes, but it's not like it's, emptying your wallet per se.
No, I tell you what, in most cases, really, it's an act of maybe going out of your way to pick up that cup that's blown across the street, or the shopping bag that's hanging in the tree out there that somebody just let go or blew out of their trash can or something. It's as simple as having the thought that, I'm here, I can go do that. A little experience that I had after this, well, actually it wasn't after, it was before it, but I didn't think about it this way. I had reason to go up to Canada for a special trip. I was picking up something up there. And while I was up there, I drove around Quebec, Canada a little bit. I'd never been there, didn't know if I'd ever be back.
What's the population of that place?
Oh, man, I don't know, but it's pretty thin up there, really.
Okay.
It's pretty rural, backwoods, a lot of farming,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of acreage up there. And then they have these little boroughs, these small towns, a lot of small towns along the highways. But without fail, every one that I drove through looked like it had been manicured just for me
Wow.
to
Okay.
see it. All of the yards were cut, trimmed, manicured. There was nice flowers in the flower bed or in a flower box underneath a window. I can't tell you how many times I saw that picture.
Right.
That, to me, it was a mindset.
Yeah.
That was clearly the way everyone thought up there. Extremely responsible for themselves, their home, the way they impacted the rest of the town. Everything was just super neat and well kept. Left me with the feeling that, man, we could take a lesson from the people up in Canada, at least on that part of living.
Sure.
There's other things they do that maybe we wouldn't buy into, but that sure left a good impression on me.
So my question is, was that something that they had to like put together like a team to do? Did every citizen just understand like that was their job and, to make it a better place, or they just innately were those people? What happened there?
I'm going to guess, okay?
Okay.
I think it happened over a pretty long period of time.
Okay. It wasn't overnight.
No, it was probably over 2 or 3 generations maybe.
Okay.
But it was an accepted thing up there that you didn't have a trashy house. You didn't have a yard that was unmowed or untrimmed. It was, just not something that you did because everybody in your town did that, and you wanted to be a good township member.
Mm-hmm.
So you kept your yard up too, just like everyone else did.
Yeah.
To get to that point, though, I'm sure somewhere down the line, somebody had to say or think, I want to make my place look good so that when people come through my town, they at least have a good thought about who lives here and what we do. And along the way, I might even impact some of my neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that's how it got started. But I did notice it, and I did notice it being extremely different from what I was used to.
Yeah. Sometimes we need a little motivation, and it's not always easy to get people on board with something that may not be their idea. I tend to think when that conclusion's kind of arrived on their own, it's a little bit easier to kind of probably get some more participation. But apparently that took root somewhere for that community, and they were all the better for it. It was noticeable for someone like you. You had a brief stay, and you came by, and you're like, dude, what is going on here? Like, this place, you used the word manicured, which is, a very good detailed compliment.
That's what they look like. There wasn't a blade of grass taller than the next one. And
Wow.
it was like beautifully maintained, all edged, and people had gone to a lot of trouble to do that. But I guess I would like to think that we could begin to think like that ourselves. And I've had a little exposure to starting this ball rolling earlier this year. And I guess one of the things that people immediately think is, I'm not going to have somebody tell me how to keep my yard, my grass, and how to act when I'm around town. I know I can do for myself and think for myself. And who's to tell me to clean up my act?
Right.
I don't need to do that. Well, that's okay. If those people choose to think that way, nobody's going to beat them over the head. I don't think. And
Yeah.
Tell them you got to change your lifestyle and you got to do it this way. That was part of what Nazi Germany did, and far from it for us to ever be on that track. So
Yeah.
this is not about that. This is about just offering another thought for someone else to think about.
Yeah. So, thankfully for those listening and just, being a part of the conversation here, that may be you, that may be an opportunity, for you to, look at what's within your influence and circle. And, I like to think that, that may be how this can kind of internalize in a community like ours, just a little bit of more, paying attention to our surroundings and what we can do. And I'll get pretty real here with myself. I mean, here I am. I'm blessed to be in a home, and I tend to I don't know. I think maybe it's the I'm busy bug that gets me, but I'm not always the best at having the pristine yard. I'm blessed to have some pretty patient neighbors where it's not my intention to create a jungle, but I tend to think like, man, I have like a yard that's like half finished, right? I kind of do what's around my circle and not really what's in the back. Now, my neighbors do a really good job. They cut their property, and that's kind of like the motivation of like, oh man, I'm the last out of the three around me, to get to my yard. And so the idea, of course, is it does look better. And so it's like, it is the right idea. And, I tend to think, well, that is something I could do better, right? Oh yeah.
That is exactly the thought that I'm trying to encourage. You see some value in making your yard look nice.
Right.
In my opinion, it looks very nice. There are relative degrees of how far you want to go to take care of your yard and show that there's some sense of responsibility in your keeping of your yard.
Well, thanks for that hope.
No, it's just the fact that you're telling me it crosses your mind.
Yeah.
If we can get that far with it, that's great.
Yeah.
It causes people to just think maybe a little bit differently than they did before.
Right. And it's my hope to see this as a healthy challenge of just, if allowing that little bit of humility to kind of just set root and just go like, okay, let it not be something that I let get away from itself. Let me make sure that, like you said, this isn't like Nazi Germany. No one's going to show up at my door and force me to start my mower and get to it. But it's that sense of, hey, look, it does make a difference. I mean, I'm blessed to live in a neighborhood that, I have to say my neighbors do a pretty dang good job, of keeping it up to where that motivates me to hey, stay with it too. It's like, hey, we all kind of benefit from having, a place that's taken care of. So, man, maybe that can motivate some others too.
It's just a reflection.
Yeah.
A reflection of who you are and maybe a little bit of how you think about your home and your standing in the community and really what Port Lavaca's all about. Maybe it would be a nice place to settle.
Right.
Maybe they do a little extra to keep things going the right way in their town, in their government. While I'm mentioning government, let me say that government plays a part at the end of the day in this mindset that I'm talking about. We can only go so far with our own feelings and our own initiative. And there may come a time when, and let me back up. Here are some of the things that I see really hurt the impression that people get about who lives in Port Lavaca.
Okay.
Cars, multiple cars, especially sitting in a yard that haven't been moved in months. They're using their front yard as a disposition for junk. It's a junk yard, literally a junk yard.
Right.
I don't think there's a place for that inside the city limits of Port Lavaca. And matter of fact, the city has an ordinance against those things. The ordinances that the city of Port Lavaca has are, for the most part, they're pretty realistic. Keep your yard cut. Don't have it growing up 2 feet tall and rats and snakes crawling all over your neighbors.
Right.
Make some effort to keep it trimmed and looking nice. probably those two issues right there are the bulk of what people could do without a whole lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't leaving junk and stuff like cars and trailers scattered all over your yard really devalues your property, and it also devalues those those that are around you.
Right. So you brought up about like some grass that gets high and some areas that can kind of whether unintentionally or not, or things just got in the way, get pretty hairy. And man, I remember during some initiatives to like help some people clean, what kind of came with that was the surprise of like man, I remember I was amazed by the amount of scorpions that were found like in a yard, and the size rats. I thought there was some rats I saw. I was like, man, I only thought they got that big in New York, and they were just underneath a lot of things that just sat around for a while. And so it's like when you got things that sit around for longer than really necessary, you could potentially create a dangerous environment, know. And so that's the other thing too. If you live within X amount of yards from maybe a place where things kind of just got out of hand, things can come out, and you kind of have to be wary of that.
So I think we're talking about mainly just a mindset in all of us.
Yeah.
But to go along with that, at some point, we got to have that mindset in our health department, in our city council, in our county commissioners, to help support the way we're trying to keep our community up. We can't do it without their help at some point. But when we revealed this, we brought this out a few months ago, one of the things that came up was I can't afford to fix what's wrong with my house. I can't even afford to get my grass cut. I cannot afford to do some of these things.
Yeah.
Those are special cases where people can't. And I think the rest of us can band together. We have a little responsibility to help those people who cannot do it.
Yeah.
I'm using the word cannot. When it comes to won't do it, that's another story.
Yeah. We'll still continue to plant seeds and hopes that it would sow some cooperation. But until then, let's help those that cannot but desire it.
Right. I just think, man, if you are inclined to give this a second thought, do it, please. That's great. If you're not, hey, that's okay. We're not trying to change the way you think. We're just trying to offer another way of thinking about where you live, how you can help the way you live reflect on all of us.
Yeah.
So that when people drive by Highway 35 and they say, "Oh, you're from Port Lavaca, the Calhoun County soulful sand crabs," and gosh, all of the area on 35 bypass looks fantastic. It was all manicured. There wasn't any trash out there. Everything looked really neat. You guys must have a really pretty sharp community going there.
Yeah. So this is going to be an easy question for me to ask because I feel confident in your answer, but like, is it your desire then to see this community grow? Because I want to make sure people hear their heart. It's not so much that you care. Like, yes, it is your out of that pride, that Port Lavaca pride, that when people pass by, for them to be impressed by what they see. But it also sounds like it's your desire that for people to feel like this is a place they want to live. And so it's like, okay, we want to see this place grow and people to like be confident they can lay their roots here and, call this place home and be proud to do so. So, but maybe that's me. Again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, just kind of want to hear your heart on that. I mean, what is this overall goal here? It's
going to grow.
Yeah.
It's going to change. We can't stop it. But which way is it going to grow? I was gone from here for 23 years. I left right shortly after graduation. Probably 1987 is when I really left. And when I came back 23 years later, Port Lavaca looked a lot different.
Okay.
Than it did when I was here before.
And not to throw you off too much, but can you share okay.
Yeah, the area is going to grow. And it's up to us to see that it grows in a positive way. so that people want to live here because they're going to live somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And they can go to Victoria, which is so far, that seems to be the great majority of where folks go is Victoria. And you got to ask yourself why.
Yeah. Fair question.
Yeah. Why is nobody staying here? We have a growth boom going on right now, but that's chiefly because of the workforce that's built in Formosa. That's a temporary situation. And I think we would really, if we're going to have to do this one way or the other, I'd like to see it go positive. So the businesses flourish, our schools continue to achieve excellence, and we have better and better academic environment for our children. All of the challenges that are going on right now in our country, we better stand up and really focus on what's happening and how we grow our leaders, the environment that we raise our children in, and all of this attitude, this little attitude change that I'm going to leave things a little better than I found them. I'm going to do a little bit more than my boss asked me. I'm going to return that more in better shape than when I borrowed it. That way of thinking, I'm going to pick that piece of trash up. It's not mine, but I don't want it in my community. That attitude will ensure that we grow in a positive way rather than growing in a negative environment, in a negative way.
Yeah. So looking at that, I mean, that creates, some possible tension for some that, are, I guess, in theory, they're saying, hey, I'm all for this. This is great. But then, comes the actual, when there's the momentum shift of, okay, hey, things are going to grow anyway. It's our hope that things can grow a certain way where there'll be more of a sense of ownership. Like, I'll use this as an example. I remember back at the plant, there was we had many safety meetings, and our safety man, very intelligent. He meant well. And, he had this saying, if you see it, you own it, so if you go out there and if there's people being unsafe, don't wait for your safety man to go over there and tell them, hey, take care of yourself, make sure you get home to your kids tonight, and instead of waiting for someone else's whose job it is, it's like you see it and then you go and you respond because there's some actual, care there right now. Unfortunately, that creates more work, right? It's like you already have your job and you have your expectations for the day. And, if you, sure, realistically, you can't own everything you see, right? Because the more help and strength and numbers you have, the easier it gets. But this is going to create, a shift. And sometimes when that shift happens, you can feel a certain type of way. Maybe it gives you some hope. And then sometimes when things change, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. And so, I'm just curious, for those that, you mentioned, some have some needs where they cannot and they need help. And, we'll talk in a bit with practically what that can look like to address those needs. But with the change of, ideology or with the change of just how, few things, how would you encourage, someone to just keep an open mind, right? Because this could create, again, another, in a world where there's so much on our plate where we may feel like, man, we have bills to pay, there's already enough in our personal life job description going on. Like, I don't even know if I can realistically get excited about taking another responsibility in life. And especially, in our community where, some people may feel a certain type of way. Some people are already excited about it. Some people aren't, and so how would you maybe kind of give them a little bit of like, consider this before getting to maybe psyched out, to the idea?
I like the way you put all of that. That was really a good way of saying. And what really hits me is this is all about is treat the other person the way you would like to be treated yourself. Mm. If you see that person struggling or they're having difficulty, give them a hand. If you don't have time, that's okay. There will come a time when you do have time.
That's a good point.
You're not always going to be that busy. But if we can all develop the mindset of Man, it's just as simple as do unto that other guy the way you'd like to have him treat you. If we could do that, that'd probably get us a long way down the road to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just pick up that responsibility to put yourself in the other person's shoes.
I appreciate just that nugget of like, hey, look, realistically, at some given point, we may have a minute and we may have time, to address, even if something's out of our scope, there's eventually going to come an opportunity. And so maybe it's that, well, we can be ready for it when we can.
There's also going to be a time, if we get people thinking this way,
mm-hmm.
where you're going to run across somebody who's in the process of paying it forward and you're the beneficiary.
Mm. That's true. Something that comes to my mind, to potentially create, and, as I'm understanding it, it's your desire to see Calhoun just grow and flourish and be healthy. There's some things I know in psychology and counseling where, if you got someone that's in a place where they're not well, where maybe they're just at a place where it is hard to get motivated, or it is hard to, maybe find that, revitalization and purpose and drive, because, there's many people here, maybe they just moved here. Maybe they've been here for decades, or maybe they were forced to move here and it wasn't really choice because of work, or maybe, family, or maybe they had to attend to needs. And so it's kind of like, okay, like I live here. I'm not really going to, maybe think too hard about the roots that I'm setting here. But whatever the reason why you're here, and for better or for worse, if, let's say it just maybe hasn't been the highlight, there's a thought that comes to mind, and it's that like, when some people are in a place where they're not really sure what their next move is, because maybe just things are just kind of just heavy on them. It's been said that, starting by cleaning your own room, can really make a difference with just kind of creating that like psychological momentum to really start finding headway and doing some things that are going to put you in a better place. And, if you're kind of in a room and it's a mess, or if you're kind of in a place where, it's just piling on, and even physically you can see that things are kind of piling on, it's harder to get motivated to do things beyond that. And there's something that kind of happens in clicks where when we create an environment around us that is better than what we left it or what it has been, that it kind of puts us in an optimistic position to do something even better as our next step. And so you could be onto something is what I'm getting at.
Well, you know something, Sam? This conversation has just spurred that thought in me that maybe that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
I've never really been able to get, it's a concept, it's a mindset. It's what can I do? Maybe it's what can I do to help my brother who's hurting or in a bind? How would I want him to treat me if I were in his shoes?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that's the heart of the matter.
Sometimes you can meet more than just one need at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be special to see too. And though even with the logistics part, the questions that could easily come up, like, well, then if I'm in a position where I cannot, how will that need get met? Like, and what if I miss the bus and the rotation of the caravan of people who are coming around? I do feel like I have some good news in that, with me being a part of the Ministerial Alliance, the president there, Pastor Ruben in Bayside Community Church, man, he has had a fire in him as well to put together. And by chance, have you been in talks with him recently?
I know Pastor Ruben well, but I haven't talked to him recently.
So y'all may have an interesting conversation soon then, because he wants to create like a Calhoun mission army, which is just a group of guys that, through the intersection of different churches around our community that can just get able-bodied men and women who want to serve and help meet needs of people who, maybe they can't fix the electricity or plumbing or, well, obviously they're going to offer what they can. They're not trying to put our businesses out of business, but realistically, there's probably people who are elderly or disabled or in a position where they can't mow their yard. Well, here's a group of people who are going to intentionally carve out time to meet those needs.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm thinking, okay, if already there's a group of people that are, starting to kind of see that is something that could be met through their, able body willingness to serve. Okay, that's one way, right?
Yeah.
And then there's, like you shared, there's going to be some ownership by the city. There's going to be some ownership by people like you and I going about our day. And then there potentially, and through those listening who may get that urge and say, hey, I would like to pioneer a group of people that could serve on Saturdays or to do things that there could be more than one way.
That's the perfect group or attitude or tool that I was thinking about.
Great.
For dealing with those people who can't.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that's going. We
little seed of hope there.
We need to publicize what Pastor Ruben's doing.
Yes. No, and that's
great.
That's the bug that we got is to make sure people know that could be an opportunity for them to receive help or be a part of the help.
That's super. That's outstanding. We need that here.
So I would think that, there's definitely some attention drawn to this because at the end of the day, you're not just someone who's tired of seeing. It's not like you woke up in the morning and said, man, I'm going to be cranky and angry that I saw some trash near my house or something like that. This is someone that loves Port Lavaca, and you have served and have sacrificed your time to, pick up trash yourself with different, community initiatives, in this community and to love on people in other communities in different ways. And, but a little bit more of that heart and other people could make it a better experience for everybody. And so you just want to pass it along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thank you for bringing up that. That's kind of the whole sense of the thing is helping other people.
So that's our plea right now is that, if you're checking this out and that there could be some strengths that you can bring to the table, whether it's the muscle, whether it's the logistics part that maybe you're the organizer and you can schedule different teams in different places, or it's the promoting part. How can we all put our strengths together to kind of motivate and revitalize a community that just needs some love?
Yeah, exactly. And a little offshoot is think about this community as yours. It reflects you living here.
Yeah.
And what you might want other people to think about your town.
Yeah. It's funny, right? We, through choices that were either our own or not, this is where we live. And, if this is, a place that we're going to call home for a good while, we want to not just say we hang our hat here, but I think for me, maybe this is how my mind works. I heard someone tell me this, and I thought it was one of those like, oh my gosh, that's a fun perspective, I guess. And it almost sounds like, not that it's like too hard to hear, but it's one of those like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. You're not wrong. But it was the idea that when you're married, right? Like let's say you went to your wedding and you made the vows till death do you part. And so that's something that you plan on keeping. And let's say you get into just the worst argument and just you're walking on eggshells in the house and just things are just very unbearably uncomfortable. And if you have the mentality that, oh, well, we're in it for the long game, it's till death do we part. So I guess I better, do something to help make this better or it's going to be a real long 50 plus years. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of it like this, if you're living here and you're going to raise your children here, or if you're going to retire and stay here, and if that's your plan, it's kind of like, it should be somewhat of a prerogative to do everything we can and just try to make it the best experience possible. And
there you go.
Hopefully we can get there.
Yeah.
People may say like, what an illustration, like, man, I guess I'm going to be here for a while. I guess I may make the best out of it, but in hopes that it can be a positive motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't cost money to do what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, we're not out to, single out any specific group of people. We realize it's probably easier for some to, have the accessibility to, for some, they may have the equipment they need. Like for me, I'm blessed. I'm in a position where I have a mower, I have a weed eater, I have all the tools that it would take, to upkeep my place. And also, thankfully, I have transportation. So if I'm going around somewhere in the community, it doesn't take much for me to get out of my car and go try to improve a location. But I'm thinking, okay, we understand that not everybody may be in the same boat, but if you can, we need your help. And if not, we're here to help you.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
we can make that. Before, maybe wrapping this up, I just want to give you the opportunity in case you had maybe anything else you wanted to make sure to hit on before going.
I think we've covered everything really well.
Okay.
What comes to my mind is maybe a good way to close this. If you happen to be at a park down at Peninsula Park and you see a cup blowing across the yard, let the thought cross your mind, maybe I ought to go get that and put it in the trash. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And you start taking responsibility for things that you had nothing to do with. It will gradually change you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're good. And I just realized that for those that see us and know our faces now, the accountability is going to be pretty high if I walk past a cup or two. It's like, but it's okay. If that motivates not just myself, but others around me that do the same, then it's all good. It's worth it.
Yeah. It wasn't you that threw the cup down, but it was your brother.
I'll say with someone, yeah. I'm like, I just didn't see the cup, the
Right.
whole if you see it, you own it thing. But
Yeah.
but we'll get it. And, one opportunity to bring this into a better place at a time.
Thanks so much for asking me.
Yeah. Thanks for being on, Raymond. You take care.
You too, Sam.